Yo, what's good, y'all? My name is Brandon Boone, and this is another episode of the How to Build Your Own Dreams podcast. We live in Los Angeles for Grammy Weekend takeover. Yes, sir. So yeah, this is a special weekend, man. I gotta shout out the Save Social Club for bringing us out here for the weekend. If y'all don't know what's going on, tap into the Instagram page. If you missed out, that's on you. But today, man, we got a very, very special guest in the house, man. Todd, what's going on, bro? How you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
For sure. How you feeling?
Do I have to use this mic?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Great.
Just so the audio can pick up. I know it's weird. I know.
No. It's all good. It's like, I'm good, man. I'm good. Excited, blessed, all the above.
Dope. So before we kick it off, just you gotta tell the people who you are, man, because you're a major player, especially on the music industry side. So kind of tell us what you do, and we kind of go from there.
All right. Well, thanks for having me.
For sure.
My name is Todd Perry. I am. Wow. You know when you say like who you are, it is like.
I know. I'm the same way.
But I am from Philadelphia. Went to school in Atlanta, Georgia. Been in LA for 12 years, and my title is Vice President of Hip Hop and R&B for a distribution company called STEM.
No, come on, cut that up. That's big. Yeah.
So that's. I saw this interview. It was a Nardwuar interview. I don't know if anybody watches Nardwuar, but somebody asked a person like, "Who are you?" And then he was like, he answered very inward. So that's why I was like, there's a lot of ways I can take
facts.
Yeah, that's who I am on the surface.
Dope, man. So I guess kind of tell us what interested you in the music industry and how you kind of your beginnings and getting into the business side of things. So a lot of times, I know for me, I feel like people only think it's one way in. Like you have to be the artist. But it's a whole nother side, a whole nother word that people can get into. So kind of talk about that journey.
Yeah, it was a wild journey, twists and turns. I always wanted to be in music since I was young, and recently, I was telling my wife a long time ago. I said, "Yo, I always wanted to be in the music business since I was a kid," and I ran into someone who I hadn't seen since like third grade, and she still had a picture of a group that I managed in third grade called the Frog Boys. So I saw her at the boxing gym, and I was looking, and she was like, that looks like Katie Boyer. And then I looked, and she was like, Todd. I hadn't seen her since then.
Yeah.
So I wanted to do it since a kid. I just loved my pop was really into music and introduced me to a lot of just from jazz to R&B to rap, everything, and he would listen to music with me. That was like a very important thing for me. So that was my introduction to loving music.
Oh.
Not really, and so the next layer from that was understanding just business in general. I like business. I like people. I like connecting people. Right. So I guess those were the seeds of me wanting to be in the music business, but like unconscious, right? So I thought the best way to be in the music business was to be a lawyer. I wasn't like, although I did have my stint at rapping and singing.
Right, yeah.
But I thought it was like, the only way that I can foresee myself getting into the music business is to be a lawyer. Because, I'm from Philly, there's no I didn't know how to do it, you know what I'm saying? Only what I seen on TV. But I loved it, and I love connecting people. So that was kind of like the introduction to it, and I love business. Dope. And, yeah.
Was there a certain point where it's like, okay, making music is not my thing, but this is the lane I want to go into?
Yeah, absolutely. I always say that people that are in the music business, a lot of times started in places that they didn't end up, right?
Right.
You start like trying things, but that's really life, right? Like you start somewhere and you work it out and you figure it out and you find like what your niche is and what you like to do, what you're good at, And so for me, yeah, it was like I had, you know, it was like I never did the making beats thing.
Right.
I didn't. I'm not really a software guy, you know. I didn't really want to do that part, but I did like write songs and in that space singing. My friends will tell you I really like to sing. But so yeah, that was like true. But then I was in college, met a guy who was a singer, and he was writing songs on the piano and filming it on YouTube. And at that time, it was like 2007, he was getting like hundreds of thousands of views at that time, right?
Yeah.
So that was like a big thing. Had a great voice and he could write, so I was like, yo, you know, you should let me manage you. You know?
Right,
And that's kind of like how it started.
Okay.
Into
Dope.
the business side.
Dope. And you mentioned you're connected with people, so I want to just take it back a little bit and kind of, I guess, explain kind of how we met, right? Because that's why we do things like this. Without community, without actual collaboration, it's really hard to pivot. So we met last year. Well, I don't know. You met Aaron last year,
met Aaron, yeah.
but we was in the same spot at doing South by Southwest.
Yep.
I guess kind of talk about why is it important to be outside, because a lot of time in this social media age, it's like people get stuck behind their phones, behind the internet,
absolutely.
and they don't want to get outside. But this is important. This is where the magic happens. So kind of talk about.
Yeah, I mean, we're like, the world is nothing without people, right? So you have to, you don't have to, but my thing is connecting. It's just, I think it's sometimes people just have a knack for certain things, but I think just like, you know, networking, which is like sometimes a corny term for me, but it's just like, yo, you get out, you meet people, you talk to people. I would say like, you never know where the next opportunity or blessing or what is going to come from, who's connected to who or what, and you know, it's just important. So yeah, it was South by Southwest there, and I was there for music stuff, and I just like to be outside, but in a controlled way. You know right. But one of my mentors, I spent a lot of time in the studio, so I worked for a producer, and I worked in publishing, and one of my mentors was like, yo, you spend a lot of time in the studio, you need to be outside. And I was like, he's like, you have to, it happens outside of the door. You know what I'm saying? Like, we can make music in here all day long, but, you know. And so I just literally picked up the phone and, like, reached out to some people that I knew. Like, it was a girl who worked at ASCAP. And, like, I was like, yo, I just want to come up and have a meeting. I didn't even know what I was going to meet about. But, you know, you just go and one thing leads to, you lily pad your way across.
Right. So that's kind of what led you to STEM?
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, but I'll take some steps to where so I got there. So I was managing this guy at Morehouse. I went to Morehouse, managing him, and he got a publishing deal. So we did this. He sang on MTV Super Sweet 16 for Spinderella and Kenny Anderson's daughter. And a music executive, Lainey Stewart is his name, saw him and signed him, literally from seeing him on the episode. Yeah. So I was a junior, we were both juniors. He left to come to LA, got a publishing deal, and I was like, yo, this is my ticket right here, you know what I'm saying? And so when he came out here, I still was in Atlanta. And I used to fly AirTran. I know some of y'all brothers know AirTran. They had these college fairs where you could fly to LA for like $100, $90.
Dang.
So I would just like, for a long time, Fridays, I would go to Hartsfield. I'd call my pop like, yo, I need like $200.
Right, yeah.
And he would give me money, and then I would fly to LA, and I would just hang in the studio. The Boom Boom Room was where they were. And I was just like a fly on the wall. I did that for like almost a year, like as many times as I could make the trip to LA. And to the point where when I graduated school, I was like applying to law school. Remember, I was telling you, I thought I was trying to do.
Right.
And on a trip here, I was working at this law firm in Philly, and I was out here just like hanging around, doing whatever they asked me to do. And I was like, Laney was like, yo, what do you want to do? Like, you've been here, like, what are you trying to do? He's like, you have a good ear, you got a good eye for talent. What you trying to do? And I was like, man, I'm doing this law school thing. And he was like, yo, I'm gonna give you an ultimatum. Don't go back to Philly.
Right.
And I was like right now? And he was like, yeah, don't go back to Philly. And that day, my flight was supposed to leave. I think it was a Sunday night, and my flight was leaving on Monday. And I stayed at the studio. I woke up. I called the law firm. Her name was Sue Drew. I was like, hey, Sue, I quit. And she was like, she's like, Todd, I think you're going to regret that decision.
Right.
So I quit the job before I called my mom, because she would have talked me, out of it.
Yeah.
So I already, I removed the life jacket, and then I was just like, I called my mom. I was like, yo, I just quit, and I ain't coming back.
Right.
Well, when I come back, I'm coming to get my stuff.
Yeah.
And she was snapping. She was like, yo, are you crazy? And I just like, I look at things like, sometimes you hear a very small voice of telling you to do something.
Right.
It's a God voice for me.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens is, the less you listen to the voice, the quieter it gets. The more you listen to it, the louder.
That's good.
So it's easy. So sometimes decisions now are so easy because it's what used to be maybe like soft and quiet.
Right.
Is very loud to me. So it's like, I might be here right now and be like, yo, I gotta bounce. Then it's like, yo, what are you doing? She asks me all the time, what are you doing? And I'm like, yo. So that was the voice, and I quit, and I stayed, and I learned everything. And so Laney, for those who don't know, he's like discovered like The Dream and Tricky Stewart, and he's a great producer himself. And so he was like, yo, I see something in you, and I'm willing to download everything into you. And that was, to me, priceless, was opportunity at that time. And so, a lot of it was funny because my friends in college, Morehouse is a very like, we are Morehouse. And so everybody was like, when they graduated, it's like, I'm going to law school, I'm going to med school, I'm doing this. And I'm like, I'm working for free at a studio with a degree. And I just, I'd taken my LSAT and everything, but it was what I felt.
So you was already in there on the lower
Oh yeah, I
side.
was applying.
I was
applying to schools.
committed.
Applied to 2 schools.
So let's talk about that, because I think a lot of times people are scared to pivot, right?
Yeah.
But I got a similar story. I grew up in Shreveport with the school for marketing. But Shreveport is not, I love my city, best food in the world, Louisiana food. But it's not for creatives, right? So I woke up one morning and was like, yo, I gotta get out of here. Yeah. But people be scared and to pivot, but you have to like position yourself for greatness.
Right.
So kind of talk about like, what was the motivation? Like, what made you really just be like, quit this, quit that, I'm moving, not going back? Like, what was the motivation behind that?
Well, it goes back to when I first was managing the Frog Boys.
Okay. That's a
No, I'm serious, because like that was like, all right. So when you're young, when you're a kid, right, where you are probably the most free that you'll ever be, right?
Right.
And you were like, yo, I see this truck, and one day I want to make cars, right? And then life happens, and then people talk you out of making cars. But it was very simple when you were a kid. It was like, I just want to make a car, right? Now the next layer is education, right, on how to make the car. So for me, I never forgot that like I really liked managing artists. When I was 8, I was doing that, right?
Oh.
But like if I were to tell someone that I met when I was 13 that I was managing a group at 8, they'd be like, yeah, right. So for me, it was like, yo, I remembered what I really it was like a full circle moment as to what I wanted to do as a kid, right? Because a lot of us adults, are doing things because we were told that it was right by an external force, whether it was like parents,
you gotta go to school,
like you gotta do it, you have to do it this way,
right?
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then what happens is I thrive off of just like my inner peace and happiness, right? So I was cool like being broke and whatever. I just liked what I was doing. Right. So what made me, I guess, pivot was the fact that it was true to what I was doing. really, I would have been miserable had I kept going down the path that I
Right.
thought that I was going. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it was like I seen the line of happiness, and I was like, I just latched onto it, and I didn't ask any questions. I just jumped onto it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I guess we can pivot a little bit.
Pivot. We can pivot.
So you at STEM. I guess what are some of the things that like make you exceptional?
Make me exceptional.
Yeah.
Wow. Dad, that's.
Or either you in your position, like
Oh, okay.
if I'm looking at you, like, hey, how can I get to where you at? What are some of the traits you gotta have?
Oh, just. I know. Believing in myself.
Yeah.
So I give this credit to both of my parents. But when I used to go to school in the morning, my mom would say to me and my brother, like, yo, you're the best and the smartest ever. So when I would leave, because when you leave out the house, right, we can assume that your confidence will be attacked.
Right. Yeah.
Right? So if you have an overflow of confidence, it's still gonna get chopped down.
Right.
But it's like higher than it would have been had you know what I'm saying? So I think for me, just I genuinely think that I can do pretty much anything.
That's dope.
So that's why I would think that's my thing.
Okay.
And I walk around with that
Right.
confidence,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But not in a way that's like off-putting, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's
Yeah.
just like, yo, I mean, I think I can do it. I think you can do whatever you think
Right.
you can do.
Thanks.
You know what I'm saying? And then we can do it together. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I would say. And how that translates to my role is that, I'm working with artists, I'm signing labels, and it's really giving that same energy to the clients that I work with. Letting them understand that you have someone now on your team who will go above and beyond for you, your project, whatever it is that you need. I'm willing to go above and beyond because I think I can do anything.
Right.
So that's what I would say. And then just like the music business is a competitive business.
For sure.
And so it's like as you continue to go and grow in the business, it's like you're challenged to do more and stuff. But like the challenge with me is just like, can I beat myself last year?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Can I do?
That's good.
You know what I'm saying? It's not really like about anybody else.
Right. And not settling.
Yeah.
Getting too comfortable. That's good. So along your journey, has there been any like surprising obstacles that's like, man, that make you even want to think about pivoting again, or just kind of talk about? I know the people see the glitz and glamour of the music industry, but we know on the business side, it's a lot of ups and downs.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, I wanted to go back. I think it was 2016. I don't remember, but I wanted to go back to Philly. I was like about to go back to Philly. So so my man who I was managing, it was like, it's tough. Management is not an easy gig.
Oh yeah.
And it was like up and down and up and down. We have a moment and we wouldn't have a moment. We go up, right? And I started to, we got into this argument. We were leaving the photo shoot with him. And we got into this argument and we were driving. And I was like, I was planning on fighting him. I really was. And we drove back to the crib and I was like, yo, I'm out. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've been broke for 3 years.
We've been there,
You know what I'm saying? I've been eating 7-Eleven pizzas. So I'm like, yo, I might as well just go back while I can go back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? My LSAT score was still valid. I had like 1 or 2 more years before I had to retake it. So I'm literally like in the room like thinking about it.
Together, yeah.
And then it sounds wild, but I went to sleep and I had a dream, and 2 people that really made me believe in myself and in what I was doing in particular was my dad and my grandma. So when I left to go to LA, my grandma was like, she passed away, and I was telling her on her deathbed, I was like, yo, I'm going to LA, and she was like, great. And that was like my last exchange with her. So I go to sleep, and my grandma's in the thing, in my dream, and she's like, yo, just stay. Wow. And I thought that, this is what I thought. I thought that like the big break was about to happen.
Right. Yeah.
Like
yeah,
I thought it was
yeah,
about to
yeah.
happen. Like, all right, bet.
It's
Like
just a year.
in 2 months, we're gonna sign to Interscope, right?
Right,
You know,
yeah.
and so it didn't happen that way, but it was enough for me to, again, back to listening to, you know. So I stayed, and that was it. So that was one moment that was like really scary for me. And then I mean, you know, like it's hard. It's like, especially when you're trying to do something, chasing something that no one maybe can see, like you can see it,
Right.
but you're also doing it, and you're like struggling doing it, and you're like showing up to the party, and your cards decline, but you're also 27. You know what I'm saying? It's like, yo, what? Because you question yourself, like, am I tripping? I mean, that's a part of the thing, like a part of the road.
Yeah.
You should ask yourself if you're tripping.
For sure.
You should be like, yo, I think I'm tripping. You know what I'm saying? But so it's all, you know, obstacles, and they just change now. It's like
Right.
that was that then. Now there's new obstacles.
Right.
You know?
So they're always gonna be obstacles.
Always.
Yeah. I guess how do you have like a system or a certain way that you deal with obstacles? Because I know, as a creative entrepreneur, as a creative, like obstacles will throw people off. Like
Yeah.
totally
Prayer.
knock you off. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, you know, I think that's the secret sauce for me.
Nice.
Is that, right? It's like, you know, having a strong prayer life, a great spiritual life that that's important to me. That was instilled by my parents, right?
Right.
I have this, my pop passed away last year, and he has this, on my 30th birthday, he said, it was a surprise that my beautiful wife put together for me.
Right.
That I really didn't know was happening. It was a great surprise.
Yeah.
And so my dad spoke, and he said, the greatest thing that me and your mom could have ever done to you was introduce you to God. That's literally what he said. And it really was, because that's how I get over my obstacles. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, yo, all right. I think that that's where the confidence comes from as well, right? Like, I'm like, yo, it can be figured out, right? And I think the other thing is, like, things being figured out in our way, how we look at it, is something that we have to alienate, right?
Right.
Sometimes things get figured out, they will get figured out, but it might not be in the way that you think it will, right? And you have to be vulnerable enough to, like, succumb your emotions to that path, right? Like, okay, it's working this way then. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of times, even in, like, decision making, you know, it's like you gotta, like, let the chips fall.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You don't want to always force feed it with what you think. Sometimes you just, like, let it align, and then it'll work out. So, yeah, I would say that's my way of overcoming obstacles.
Dope. And then I guess being a man of faith, a lot of times I know, because you work on the secular side, right? So how do you keep yourself safe? You know what I'm saying? On the right path. I
mean, look, man. I don't have a formula for it.
Right, right.
You know what I mean? I think, you know, I think that the great thing about us as people in humanity, right, is that you never know how someone will be introduced to God, right? You don't know, like, the path that someone will be introduced. And you know, I would be not telling the truth if I didn't sometimes think, like, yo, wow, like, I'm not, like, it's not like I'm living contradictory to what I believe, because that's not true.
Right.
But there are times where you're like, oh, I mean, you know. So I think, like, it's something that it's a daily working, like, you're just working on it daily. I think, like, yeah, and I'm also not like a literal, like, there's bad things that happen in the church.
Right. Oh yeah.
There's great things that happen outside of the church.
Yeah.
Right. And it's really about the individual and what your messaging is. Like, you know, all of my friends know what I represent.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
That's good.
And so, but it's also not through, like, I'm not here, like, standing on, like sitting and preaching to you either.
Right.
It's just like, it's a reflection of how you live, and I think that, like, you can be a light to people. You can be a light to people who are secular, right?
For sure.
So, you know, just working out.
Dope. So, looking back, like, is there any advice you could give your younger self?
Looking back. It's Teddy Pendergrass. What would I give my younger self advice? What would I say? That's a tough question. I don't know, man. I think that something, if I had to think about when I was younger, is I don't know, man. It's funny because like I have a very like kid-like spirit.
Right.
So
I think keeping that is
a lot of what I would tell myself as, like are things that I've told myself.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because I would say keep going.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
I've kept going.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And you still in it. You still in your journey.
Yeah. Like you know, it's like just keep going. I think yeah. I don't know. I have that spirit in that.
But I think that's it, though.
I try not to let that go.
Right, yeah. I think that's it, because that's what I know something that Aaron says is like, if you in your 20s right now, that's probably the most free as you will ever be, right? So this is a time to take the chances, take the risk, go through the open doors, right? But
Yeah.
a lot of people sometimes get scared or don't keep that
Absolutely.
childlike faith or freedom
Absolutely.
that you have. So I think that's good. Man, it's just super dope to have you here, man. We appreciate you. Can we please give it up for Todd? I'm gonna leave it room for a few questions that anybody have or anything. I got one in the back. Two. You can come up.
Todd, with the constant innovation in the music space, we've seen Napster, we've seen Spotify, we've seen AI. What do you think is the next big bet in music?
You said the next big bag?
Where would you, as an executive, think? Where are you spending your time? What are you thinking about? What keeps you up at night?
I think a couple things. One is I think it's funny because we met through the Even, right? It's a business model that I really believe in, which is direct to consumer, like of the loophole of Spotify. And I think being an independent artist, which I like work with, if you're an independent artist and you're trying to make a living by being an independent artist and you have your music on Spotify and Apple, you have to stream a lot to make a living. But if you have, 10,000 fans that pay you to access your music, which is basically what Even is, you can make a living. So I think direct to consumer is one thing. I think that the AI thing is unavoidable. Like it's probably best to understand it and try to adapt. Like I saw something, you can like type prompts in. You can type a prompt in. You can be like Marvin Gaye singing like Bruno Mars on a Timberland beat, and it can spit back a song to you, which is crazy. But it's nothing you can do about it. So like, I mean, I'm a technical music like purist. Like I'm really like, yo, this is crazy. But also too, it's like, it's better to figure out a way to adapt to where it's headed. So I think AI, direct to consumer, those are two things that I think is like, learn what that is so you can make some money and make a living doing what you love to do.
Todd, a lot of people talk about, the success and the limelight of it, right, of where you're headed towards and currently at. How do you think of, because people always talk about the work ethic and the hard part, and then the luck part. How do you think of those two in terms of your career and also the greats that you're probably next to?
Yeah. I mean, the harder you work, the more opportunities you get. It is what it is. Like, I don't believe in luck, per se. I just believe in, if you work hard, the opportunities will open up for you. And that's, I think, you start to find more opportunities the more work you put in. You know what I'm saying? And my life is a reflection of that. It's like, I was like hammering. I mean, and a lot of my friends that are here, I was like hammering the ground, just beating the pavement for a long time. And then opportunities just opened up. And try not to look at things with like a time frame. I know it's hard, but like I think that's the most difficult thing is the time, your own timeline to where you expect yourself to be at a certain point. That's probably, to answer the question earlier, like that's one of my biggest challenges, is that timeline versus where you expect to be and the reality of what's happening. You know what I'm saying? That's tough.
So what are two, thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
What are two qualities that you think makes an artist stand out? And then what are two qualities that you think would probably make you not want to work with the artist?
That's a great question.
Good question.
That's a great question.
That's
Wow. So two qualities that I think an artist, in my opinion, should possess that makes them stand out is individual, like being an individual, owning who you are, right? Like whatever that is, because the audience can sense like genuine or not, right? Or if you're like faking it or if you're not, right? And all the great artists, the greatest artists to me have that like pure, I've arrived, this is who I am. You either take it or leave it, you know what I'm saying? And then the other quality I think is work ethic, you know, which is why I would not work with an artist. Is like, I learned that sometimes artists like to take the pictures more than they like to actually do the work, you know what I'm saying? And you can, it was a lesson that I learned early on, which was like, you gotta do the red carpet and you gotta do the thing and whatever. But it's like, no, you gotta put the work in. So a lot of times working with, especially developing artists, this is more like developing artists, is like, what if you're not trying to work, and if you're looking, and if you're not self-sustainable, I think in this day and age, you have to be able to like, learn how to record yourself. It's like being a diva artist that's new is like, I don't record unless the conditions is like this. It's like, yo, come on, you know what I mean? Like that's a turn off for me. So those things is like, yo, as you grow and get those, you can, but yeah, hard work, being an individual, and obviously having great songs. Right.
Can you just briefly talk about like what putting in work means? Because I know I saw a tweet, I think where Barry Hefner was calling artists lazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then there was a whole bunch of people saying, artists not lazy.
Mm-hmm.
But like, what is, just briefly, like, what does that actually look like as an artist? Like, is it just creating music or?
It's everything, man. It's like, first of all, it's not easy being an artist, right? Like I'm not an artist, so it's not easy being an artist. And there are a lot of things that you putting in work means. It's like, right, writing, recording, really like understanding as many aspects about your business as you can on a daily basis. It's like mastering your craft, you know what I mean? I think sometimes mirroring it after athleticism is a lot easier to digest because being an artist is so amorphous at times, right? It's like, well, but like when you are a boxer or when you play ball, it's very obvious if you work or if you don't work, right? Sometimes with an artist, like you get a song that goes viral and it's like, yeah, you know, I've been working so hard at this, you know what I mean? And it's like, yo, this is your second record, you know what I mean? And so that's why like you see staying power like it's not as strong because there's no, but you look at an artist like a Victoria Monet, right, who's been at it for a very long time, you know? So her foundation is so sturdy. And now, so what you see is like putting the work in, right? So to me, her staying power in the business will be much longer than someone else who had a fly-by-night moment, you know what I'm saying, and didn't, because that's what I'm saying, you can't see sometimes who's putting the work in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You just see like, and other artists looking at other artists is like, yo, don't look at other artists like that. Just work on your thing, you know what I mean? Building your audience and your fans also too, I think is a very, extremely important today, is building your community. You know, it's like, it's about, if you want to make a sustainable living, you have to have a community, you know? So if you stream and don't sell hard tickets, when the song's gone and, you know, they paying you a penny on a joint, you know what I mean?
Right.
You can't even sell a t-shirt.
Right. That's a whole other conversation.
You know?
Yeah, that's good. Any other questions, man? Todd is a VP of a distribution company. There's not many times you'll be in a room with a VP. So, any more?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, in your opinion, what kind of stage in an independent artist's career should they be looking for a manager or wanting to form that relationship?
Yeah, I would say that's a great question because it's like, what are you managing? I think that so there's two answers, right? One is like when you have when you're having some momentum and things that need to be managed, maybe that's kind of an answer. But I think the real answer is, I don't know if there's like a defining moment. I think that, let's say you're an artist and your roommate is a fan of what you do, right? And he or she is like, yo, I really like what you got going on. I want to help you, right? Which is maybe you make a formal management agreement with this person or maybe not, but they're willing to help you at an early stage. That might just be like, yo, I want to help manage your social media. I want to help you, I want to get a camera and take pictures of, like, those kinds of things. That's like, you could be an artist who, is just starting out and have that relationship with a manager, right? So I think sometimes even to like go against what I just said, like, what are you managing? But it's like, it just depends. Like, it just depends on the people in your corner, right? Like, I think finding people who believe in what you do is so critical when you're early. Like, finding people that are willing to, because that was me for, people early on, was like, I'm willing to take this on because I believe in it, right? And I think the relationship between an artist and a manager, especially like when you're coming up, it's not the manager's job to motivate the artist. It's the artist's job to motivate the manager.
Yes.
That's my opinion,
Yeah.
Because a lot of times it's like, my manager ain't doing nothing. It's like, well, I mean, this like,
We working off your movie.
yeah, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I've heard that a lot of times, and it's like the artist should keep the manager inspired. Like, a great piece of advice that a great manager gave me was, he's like, as long as when I see this person on stage, or when I hear the record, or when I see him take the picture, I can justify all of the heavy lifting that I have to do. As long as that's there, I'm gonna keep doing heavy lifting. But like, so, that's what I would say. Find somebody that loves what you do.
Dope. All right. Once again, this is the How to Build Your Own Dreams podcast. You can find it on all streaming. Tap in with Todd. If you just want to say your username for the audio purposes, but it's also on the screen.
Oh yes, at Morty Waxman.
Yeah.
By the way, my mom gave me that name. That was the first. When she finally was okay with me being in LA, she's like, you can need a nickname, and that's the first name she gave me. So Morty Waxman is where you can find me on IG.
Make sure y'all tap in. Appreciate y'all. Thank you.